All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
I'm on board. Hello and welcome from Washington, D.C., the nation's capital. This is where everything doesn't get done, right here in this great city. That's right. Our tax dollars get poured into this town, and then nothing really substantial gets done. The rich get richer, the military-industrial complex grows. Those who really need help never get it. It's terrific. And this is where it all happens. Oh, I'm here because my father is not doing so hot right now. And so I came back here to be with him. And my family is here also. My sister Sue is the hero of the family, I would suggest right now. Able to keep track of a lot of different medical things and legal things. And there are all these things that are related to my dad's care, and she's really been great. And I'm there with a connection to my dad, so it's really special to be here at this time. Thank you all for joining us. What a show we've got. Really cool. It's Tech Thursday. Jefferson Graham will be by. There's a major announcement on top of other major announcements we have on this show. I'm talking about a major tech announcement. Then at 11 o'clock, David Katz, Hunter Biden is striking back with his legal team. And at 11:35, Belinda Waymouth joins us with It's the Planet Stupid. So we've got really a full docket to extend the, it's going to be quite the show. Kim is here. Albert is here.
What up?
Just a program note. I wouldn't call it a major announcement. I will be here probably for most of next week, and then I will return to California if everything gets stable. And at that time, we'll do a bunch of shows from California, from our home studio. But we have great shows next week live from DC. On Monday, Spencer Christian joins us to talk about Black History Month. He grew up in the Jim Crow South. And whenever we talk to Spencer Christian, we always digress into other things anyway. He's a longtime friend and friend of the show. Also on Monday, Andrew Fracknoy will talk about all things in the cosmos. It was kicked off by that comet conversation, but his book, Astronomy, I think is the go-to book, apparently, and maybe the best-selling book on the subject. So anyway, that'll all be just on Monday, then Tuesday, Johnston, and so on. Yeah. Today, I'm looking forward to everybody who's coming in. Jefferson Graham, I mentioned David Katz and Belinda. It is, smash it with your groundhog, Sandy says. Smash that like button like a boss.
Iron rod.
It is Groundhog Day, which is a horrible tradition they have to pull this rodent out to this sweet, innocent animal is pulled out to this crazy rugby scrum of screaming celebrants, most of whom are drunk off their ass from the night before. That's now spilled over into the morning of. And then they have some guy there who officially tells you what the groundhog saw, and then that becomes the expectation for the longer winter. Isn't it how it works, Albert and Kim? Isn't that it? Yeah. And so, but as with most things, it's about tourists, it's about money, it's become an event. And when there's an event, there's all the stuff around the event. And I don't mean to be down on it. If you could take the animal out of it, I'd be all for it. I just feel for that poor creature. Now, get a prop groundhog, get an animatronic kind of groundhog. That's what I would hope for. And you could even have the animatronic reaction based on the groundhogs that are all in safer confines, less traumatized. But here is my story about Groundhog Day. The movie Groundhog Day with Bill Murray. Does everyone remember the movie Groundhog Day?
Oh, I love that movie. Yeah.
It's a really good movie.
Yeah. It's one of the few I can watch over and over.
I get it. I get it. Kim McAllister, everybody. Kim McAllister.
Thank you. Be here all day.
Yes. So when they were writing the movie Groundhog Day and about to shoot it, they were writing the weatherman part of it because he's a weatherman, Bill Murray, in the movie. And he's sent to cover as he does every year, the Punxsutawney Phil Groundhog Day event that I've just described. Right. And he's sick of doing it. And, hilarity ensues. It is a funny movie and a good movie. So they had the premise and they pitched the movie and they got it, and they had Harold Ramis, two guys, Harold Ramis and Trevor Albert was the other producer who got it, I think produced through Columbia Pictures. But anyway, I was in touch with them and they called me and they said, we need to write the weatherman part of the movie. And it needs to be sort of kind of accurate. Can we come spend several days with you and sort of see what your routine is?
What?
So that we can write the Groundhog Day movie weatherman part accurately. I said,
so
yeah, great.
The weatherman in Groundhog Day is based on you.
Yes, that is true.
Wow.
So but I will tell you.
Do you know who I am? I'm kind of a big deal.
Thank you. So here was my greatest challenge. I knew these. In a way, I wish Spencer Christian were in this conversation because I know he would agree with this. I'm going to tell you a secret about weather guys. And people who work at most stations know this, but no weather guy's really going to admit this. I think Spencer would admit it, and I'm telling you this from having done it for a long time. It's not that hard a job. I mean, most of the time, it's not that hard a job. There are times when it gets hard, when there's a lot of rain, this atmospheric river stuff, when there are offshore winds and when there are fires. Don't get me wrong. Weather is important, and meteorologists perform insanely important functions. You talk to aviation weather people and all this sort of thing, and you realize the importance of this day to day. But I'm talking about TV weather people. TV weather people in general, I know we dress it up and we show you the isobars and we have a bunch of different graphics, but the amount of time that is actually required to produce that segment is pretty small. So my challenge with these guys from Groundhog Day coming through and spending several days with me, I'm thinking, man, I have to make this job look a lot harder than it actually is.
That's not fake. That's real.
So honestly, as hard as I tried to make it look difficult, I had all the charts, I had all the, I read this forecast discussion, I read that forecast discussion. Look, I show them the chroma key and the satellite pictures and the feeds and how you can look at the infrared imaging and there's a water vapor analysis. I tried all of that. I still couldn't make the number of hours I spent on it very substantial, but we spent time together and I acknowledged them on the air. And then you saw in Groundhog Day, Murray has fun with blowing on the clouds and try, you know what I mean? He had all that fun with the chroma key. It was a pretty cool experience and fun experience, but I had forgotten it. And then somebody in the chat mentioned Groundhog Day, and yeah, that's my experience with the Groundhog Day movie. And I thought they just did a great job across the board. That movie held up and still holds up. There's a guy in the movie named Stephen Tobolowsky who's written a couple of really good books. He's a great storyteller. He plays that guy Ned, who's always trying to sell Bill Murray in the movie. He's trying to sell him life insurance. He's a bald guy. Do you remember the guy I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. He does a really good podcast, and he also has written a couple of really good books. So that's my recommendation on that.
Now I noticed the weatherman in the movie, Bill Murray's character, has quite the ego.
Yes, they based that on me also.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, look, sometimes you just realize that you're a big deal and it's okay.
Yeah. Play it out.
Groundhog Day, aka the Mark Thompson story-ish. I agree, Jay. Ishy. Yeah, I agree. Confessions of a TV Weatherman.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I'm here at my mother's house, and I will tell you, my mother is one of those people that puts bumper stickers on her car.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not a person who puts bumper stickers on my car. And I'm always struck by people. And by the way, have some admiration for those who, particularly in this society now where everybody judges everybody else in the harshest possible way.
Sure.
And takes action on that judgment. It's not enough to judge somebody. You have to you have to go by and honk or yell or curse them out or whatever, just based on their bumper sticker, But my mom has always been that way. She contributes to tons of charities, and the charity sends some sticker and she puts it on the car. She's a guileless person. She's a person who always sort of assumes the best in everybody. That's why she's been scammed, so many times, and that's why we worry about her. But anyway, so she had all of these bumper stickers. She had more bumper stickers than, her bumper in the back of her car looks like her kitchen. It's just stacked up with stickers and stuff. And,
There's never been anything like this.
There really hasn't been anything like this. So she, the car got old and got collected with all those stickers and bumper stickers, etc. And she wanted to get rid of the car and get a new car. I don't know if she wanted to. We kind of insisted that she do. So she was going to just junk the car. Mm-hmm. But the neighbors, I'll tell you what happened. I thought that she got a new car, and she did get a new car, and that car was gone. I'm pulling up the street yesterday, and I see a car, and I'm thinking, and she's got a bunch of bumper stickers on it. I'm thinking, wow, that is so cool. I thought my mother was the only person who had all those bumper stickers on her car. And I look more closely, and I go, wow, I mean, that looks kind of like the same configuration of crap that's stuck on the car that my mother used to have. And then I look even more closely. This is all happening in maybe 5 seconds, and I realize that is my mother's car in the neighbor's driveway. She had given her car to the neighbor.
That's not fake. That's real.
I think they wanted to buy it for their daughter who was learning to drive. But
like the old car, right? Not the new car.
The old car. She gave the old car to. It's a beer can with wheels and a bunch of stickers. It wasn't worth much.
Yeah.
And they wanted their daughter to learn how to drive on that kind of car. And so apparently, mom just they insisted on paying. My mom insisted on giving it away. Whatever it was, it's ended up across the street. And that car is, it's inescapable. It's there. It was so funny last night. Yeah. Anyway, so that's the deal on that.
Imagine being 16 and you have such high hopes. You're going to get your driver's license. You're going to get a car. What car do you get? The car from across the street with all the stickers on the back.
It is truly it's a beater car for sure. But in California, I have to say, I grew up here. This is the house I grew up in Washington, D.C. And I understand it was a different time also, but there was no thought that I was going to get a car. I mean, the idea somehow that at 16, you get a car and a driver's license and whatever. Like, in order to get a driver's license, my dad insisted that we maintain certain grades. Okay, I was the first one, so I have sustain a grade point average in order for to get the car, and I think I had to pay my own insurance. Not get the car, get the license. Never got a car. Okay, that was not even on the table. Right. And I drove my mom and dad's car, but it felt like my mom's car because it was a powder blue station wagon. A real chick magnet.
Oh, you're styling. Yeah, Mark
Thompson. So when I pulled up,
rolling down the road with my homies,
and I had to beg to drive it. Okay, so it wasn't humiliating enough. I had to beg to drive it. So, the car thing. I believe we have a couple of major announcements to share, and then I will get
a major announcement from the Mark Thompson Show. A major announcement.
I'm going to start in the world of sports, but I'll keep it quick. Jimmy Garoppolo. The 49ers officially announce a decision on Jimmy Garoppolo. 49ers head coach Kyle Shanahan held his end-of-season press conference when asked about Garoppolo potentially returning for the 2023 season. He said, no, I don't see any scenario of that. Garoppolo was mentioned in trade rumors last offseason. The 49ers were unable to find a trade partner, though. After Trey Lance went down, of course, with the ankle injury in week 2, Garoppolo stepped in, played well, completed 67% of his passes. almost 2,500 yards, 16 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. He suffered the injury of his own on December 4th against the Dolphins. You remember that's when Brock Purdy came in. So officially announced, Jimmy Garoppolo not a part of the Niners organization for next year. That's that major announcement.
Do you feel like he's just so overlooked? No matter how well he does, when the moment hits, it's easily forgotten and he's just passed over. Why, Jimmy G?
Well, he is the most handsome man in the world. I really don't have any concerns about it.
I'm not gonna cry.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not going to worry about Jimmy Garoppolo. I'll leave the worry of Jimmy Garoppolo to Kim McAllister. So that was the major announcement.
This has been a major announcement of the Mark Thompson Show.
But Albert, you'll recall that's only one of 2 major announcements. So I will need you to indicate that there is now a second major announcement.
A major announcement from the Mark Thompson Show. A major announcement.
Ozzy Osbourne has made a major announcement, everyone.
What?
The Ozzy Osbourne tour will be canceled. Ozzy
Why?
Osbourne, announcing the cancellation of his upcoming shows, said his touring career is over.
Yeah.
He says he is not physically capable of touring. He said that he had a major accident 4 years ago in which he damaged his spine and that he can no longer cope with the travel required for that tour. Quote, "My one and only purpose during this time has been to get back on stage. My singing voice is fine. However, after 3 operations, stem cell treatments, endless physical therapy, and most recently groundbreaking cybernetics treatment, my body is still physically weak," says Ozzy Osbourne. And as a result, the shows are going to be canceled. How old is Ozzy Osbourne, Kim? Do you know? How old is Ozzy Osbourne, everybody? No Googling. How old is Ozzy Osbourne?
I'm going to say
asked-
72.
72, says Kim. Let's see some
Sorry.
other...
You're not going to ask me first?
Yeah, no, I love that. You can... 70, says Tom.
I'm going to Price Is Right this and say 71.
75 says Julie, huge in Japan. 72 says Ron Cook. 76 says Joe. 78 says Sandra. 77 says Yvonne. 75 says Neil. This is amazing. No one has guessed it correctly except Joseph Greco. The answer is 74 for Ozzy Osbourne. Congratulations, Joseph Greco.
Look at Joe's beard. Joseph's beard.
Yeah. Impressive beard on Tom says 74 because I looked it up. I said no looking it up. I ought to put your time out over that, but I won't. Because you admitted it, I think you get out of timeout. That is all for the major announcements for now. I think we have one more major announcement stored away. But that is
This has been a major announcement of the Mark Thompson Show. Major announcement.
I have big news about the snowpack, an epic snowpack. I'll get to it in a minute, but I wanted to mention that Steve Moskowitz is our exclusive sponsor. And we're grateful, of course, for Steve sponsoring the show. But that isn't just the reason that you should go see Steve Moskowitz. Or in this case, when I say see, I mean you can virtually connect with him. You can call him. You can contact him through his website, moskowitzllp.com. The reason you should do that is because Steve can address all of the situations related to your business, small, medium, large business, whatever it might be. It might be a side hustle, as I've mentioned to you before. If you have a side hustle working, there are a lot of tax ramifications, and some of them are complex and offer you opportunities to keep money. Why give money to the government that you don't need to give them? You already give them enough money legitimately. Why let them illegitimately take more? And when I say illegitimately, there are legitimate reasons and legal ways for you to keep money that you make. Let Steve show you those ways. Steve Moskowitz is 888-TAX-DEAL, 888-TAX-DEAL. And anywhere you are in the country, Steve can help you. So let Steve help you with all of the different vagaries of the tax system. There are a lot. He's talked to you about government opportunities, government money that's out there. He can help you set up your business, maintain your business, save your business from a lot of the issues that the business might run into. So Steve Moskowitz, 888 Tax Deal, also 888 TAXDEAL, and MoskowitzLLP.com. Those are all the ways you can reach the great Steve Moskowitz. Mm-hmm.
The Mark Thompson Show.
So epic snow in the Sierra, deepest it's been in decades. And that's all good, right? A healthy boost in the state's supply of water. Also concerns about dryness and flooding and potential hazards as that snow melts in the months ahead. Sierra snowpack, 205% of normal. This just released. So these are current figures I'm giving you. And the snowpack was 128% of its April 1st average. And that's the end of season date when the snowpack in California is typically at its deepest. So we're in excess of that. So that's all great. Incredible start. The snow survey manager, Sean de Guzman, the state snowpack is currently outpacing the winter of 1982-83, he says, the wettest year on record dating back about 40 years. Snow levels at Phillips Station near South Lake Tahoe. A fun afternoon for the whole family there at Phillips Station, South Lake Tahoe. That's where the monthly surveys are conducted. 193% of the average for the day. So what they're hoping is that the snow melt is slow. That's really what you're hoping. And it's when they look at the overall picture, it's as follows. Flood management is going to be a factor as the snow begins to melt. And the challenge is that seasonal forecasts are inconclusive, they say, showing near equal chances of wetness or dryness in much of the state through April, meaning water managers have to prepare for all scenarios. I mentioned this to you before. The way it works with those reservoirs and dams is they have to release water because you can't keep the dam full all the time. You can't keep the reservoirs full. They'll overflow and there'll be flooding issues. So,
and then we don't get to keep that water, right?
That's for sure.
Yeah.
No. In fact, there's something of a water war continuing right now. As you're maybe aware, there are negotiations with all the Western states about the use of water. And California, because of these are, I want to say centuries old. I don't know if that's technically true. That's why I'm pausing here. But I mean, they, through the earliest compacts made around water in the West, California is in first position. So we as a state are incentivized less, if you want to think of it that way, to make a deal with the other Western states to cut back water use. Now, we have to cut back water use, but how much we cut it back is going to be something that really is a matter of negotiation. And I wanted to, didn't I have this story in there, Albert? No? Well, I've given you essentially what's going on. You have right now Western states eagerly meeting to try to work out this water situation. The Colorado River isn't what it used to be, and the demands on it are in excess of what it can really sufficiently supply. And add to that the water woes of a persistent drought cycle over the last decade, and you end up with all the Western states having to cut back. But California, as I say, in first position because of water agreements and treaties, if you want to think of it that way, made years ago, not necessarily so quick to the table. In fact, the only holdout is California when it comes to these negotiations. So that's what's happening on that. I'm taking questions and comments. I'm sorry when I get off on my little explainers there. This is. Do you want to do a shout out to those who have contributed? Then we'll do Kim's news. How do we want to do this, Albert?
Yeah. Let's do some shout outs here.
Okay. I do want to mention. Oh, well, I'll mention while his name is on screen. Kevin Hobbs is a regular listener, viewer, and contributor. He's awesome. Magnificent, and he always contributes at like a really super cool, respectable a level. Everybody contributes whatever. I mean, any amount is helpful because every little bit, drips and drabs, get us to payroll. We are crowd funded as a show. We don't have any big advertisers. We're not selling to Cars for Kids and all that. So we have Steve Moskowitz
shout
and we
out.
have you. Yeah. So Kevin Hobbs, big Dan Ashley shout out. You can leave us super stickers and super chats. If you have something to say and you want me to say it, leave it in the form of a super chat and I will say it automatically if you leave us something in a super chat.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. But Kevin Hobbs leads the way today with a $33 contribution. Thank you very much. The other way, and this is a great way to contribute to our show, is through Patreon and PayPal. Go to themarkthompsonshow.com and there you'll see two buttons. Those buttons, so there it is on the screen. Those of you watching on YouTube right now, one says contribute to our Patreon and the other says help support via PayPal. Go to one or the other, you enter the credit card data, or if you already have a PayPal account, it's even easier. And that way we get money directly. And actually the bite that's taken is even less than YouTube takes. YouTube makes it easy though, so we're very happy to have YouTube and we love the contributions, super stickers and super chats. But you can also, so it's either you can go to Patreon or PayPal as is being demonstrated on screen now. And you can also get Mark merch. You go to getmarkmerch.com and you get merch that way. And that helps us as well. All these ways you can contribute to our show and help support that show. Help support the show, I should say. Thank you. I appreciate it very much. And thanks, Kevin, for getting us started today with that.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah. This is an interesting, there's some questions that are related to healthcare coverage and taxes. And I want you to feel free to call Steve Moskowitz with those questions as well. So say, hey, I hear Mark talking about you on the air all the time. I wonder if you can help me with this situation. Maybe he can, maybe he can't, but at least give him a try. 888-TAX-DEAL. So I see some of those questions there. Coming up, Jefferson Graham, it's Tech Thursday. There is a major announcement. Yes, in Tech Thursday, a major tech announcement from a major tech provider. It affects you. It's about a consumer item. So potentially it will affect you. We will have that next. Smash the like button like a boss. Mark Thompson Show.
Smashed it with your iron rod.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. This report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz at 888-TAX-DEAL. Today, there's some resettling going on at Guantanamo Bay. The Biden administration shuffling some detainees. NBC News reports U.S. forces have released Majid Khan here to the custody of authorities in Belize. He is a former al-Qaeda courier whose sentence was reduced after cooperating with the government and testifying about being tortured by the CIA. Former President Bill Clinton is returning to the White House today. This afternoon, as a matter of fact, the Democrat will be there to celebrate the 30th anniversary of the Family and Medical Leave Act, which he signed soon after taking office. The Biden administration says the law has helped Americans take up to 12 weeks of unpaid leave from work. And the New England Patriots, they want Tom Brady to retire as part of that team. Speaking with CNN, owner Robert Kraft said fans are clamoring for the iconic quarterback to sign a one-day contract so he can retire as a Patriot. Brady played his first 20 seasons with the Patriots, winning 6 Super Bowls. The sale of a luxury car. Wish I had a picture of this one, but I didn't quite get that picture up in time. Sorry, folks. The sale of a luxury car is setting a world record.
We can imagine a luxury car. I don't need a picture. It's okay. Go ahead. Your rich description will be sufficient.
This is one of one. So only one made in the world. It's a Bugatti Chiron or Chiron.
I like it already.
Auctioned off for $10.7 million in Paris this week. 10.7 for this Bugatti. I wouldn't even be able to get behind the car wheel and drive this thing. I'd be so nervous. The sale sets the world auction record for the amount of money paid for a new car. Yes, that's right.
What does it
waiting
do?
for that drop.
Why is it so
It's a new
expensive?
car. It's a one of one. There's only one in the world like it.
Oh,
That's it.
it's
Is that it?
they call it a supercar. Yeah.
I mean, that's all.
That is
You know,
it. There's a picture of it now. If you're looking on YouTube, nice hustle, Albert. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Albert. There's only one. There's no other person in the world would have this car except you, which is why it costs $10.7 million.
I think that Kim is correct, and I will mention that it was originally built never intending that it be sold. It's a one of a kind, and maybe, as you say, it's one of a kind quality is what vaults it to that level. 10.7 million. You think twice before you take it out of the garage, right?
Oh, I wouldn't even get anywhere near it. Okay.
There were a bunch of Rolls. There were a bunch of Rolls Royces. I don't mean to interrupt, but that's kind of my job here. There were a bunch of Rolls Royces sold last year at about $25 million a piece, and those Rolls Royces, all of them were custom made one-offs. So the one-off thing, as you say, is sort of the thing. But when we talk about big money, I mean, 25 million a piece for the Rolls, 10.5 million for the Bugatti. I mean, it's nice to have money.
I guess so. Okay, and the breaking news announcement this hour is look at that. We're getting it. It is Dr. Pepper Strawberry, a new flavor hitting its shelves across the country this month. The brand recently debuted Dr. Pepper Strawberries and Cream. It comes in a regular and zero sugar. It joins the brand's permanent beverage lineup.
But that doesn't mean that it's a good thing.
That is exactly right. It is not a good thing, man. I never understood Dr. Pepper. It's not my jam, but then you add strawberry to it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I love
that
Dr.
seems
Pepper.
like a melange of
there was
bad.
like 27 flavors in it already. I would have thought that strawberry was.
Albert's right. It is an absolute mess of flavor, Dr. Pepper, already. I do not get how you add strawberry to it and think that's an upgrade. But
there it is. There we have it.
It's all marketing, I guess. So there you go. All right.
And it's available just for you.
Listen, if you're going to have a Dr. Pepper, make sure you got a lid on it if you're driving the Bugatti. That's all I'm saying.
What you can tell is that Dr. Pepper is not sponsoring the Mark Thompson Show.
Do you let your son and daughter eat food in the car?
Oh, yes, but we don't do soda.
Okay. You don't do soda at all in your family, or just in the car?
We don't do soda probably like 97% of the time. On special occasions, you can go out to dinner and order a root beer or a Shirley Temple, but that's it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Because soda's bad for kids.
Yeah, same thing in our family. We didn't have any soda unless you were having mom and dad let the kids have a rum and Coke once in a while.
Oh,
I'm
as one does.
I've told you, my parents didn't drink not a drop of alcohol ever. Incredible. All right, I'm sorry. We've got Jeff waiting, so we'll go.
Okay, so let me wrap it up. This report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz. For more than 30 years, Steve has put his tax knowledge to work for individuals and for businesses. If you need help with your taxes, you got to call Steve Moskowitz at 888-TAX-STEAL. You can find him online. You can see the website right there at the bottom of the screen, moskowitzllp.com. I'm Kim McAllister on The Mark Thompson Show.
Feel it in your soul. The Mark Thompson Show.
What up, everybody? It is our live show from my mom and dad's house. I'm back here because dad is not in the best shape. He's in the hospital right now, so we shuttle back and forth. I'm going to remain here for another week because someone has to be with mom, I think, here in the house. And my sister's going back to where she is. I have already more details than necessarily you needed, but I'm just kind of explaining why I'm going to be here a little bit longer. But I will be back in studio. We'll be at full strength next week. All of our regular guests are continuing through, and one of the favorites is the guy who was the longtime writer on technology for USA Today. Now he does Photo Walks, which is a magnificent series. And he joins us on Thursdays for Tech Thursday. Please, a warm Mark Thompson Show welcome for the great Jefferson Graham. Hi, Jefferson Graham.
Thank you. Hi, Mark. I'm in a hotel room in Solvang, California today. So it looks a little different. Yes.
I like the change in background. I hate to say it. I really think it looks cool, though.
Yeah. Fancy hotel.
Looks
but,
like it looks like you paid for the upgraded hotel room, did you? I mean, it looks a little roomier than a regular hotel room.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I like the space. But I was out photo walking at 6:30 this morning. Beautiful. Wait till you see it.
I'm excited. So again, Photo Walks TV is the YouTube series, and it's terrific. I love the series. You can needle drop that series. In other words, you can just go to any one of them and bang, hit play, and you'll love it. And you'll learn stuff. And it's your dad, Jerry Graham, I love that Bay Area Backroads series that he started. And I was at Cron back then when he started it. And there's a piece of your dad in the way you take us to all of these different places. It's really quite cool, man.
Well, thank you. It runs in the genes, right?
It does. And I'll just say, you add all the current contemporary things you can do with an iPhone or Android phone, and that's kind of the added value. It's not just a walking tour. It's where you can get great pics and how you can get great pics. So what do you have for us today? There was rumor of a major announcement.
Speaking of cameras, Samsung announced.
Wait, Albert! This is a major announcement. Can we please?
A major announcement from the Mark Thompson Show. A major announcement.
Now, sir, please.
Okay. Samsung announced their new lineup, their new phone lineup yesterday. They tend to go in February, where Apple goes in September. And so it's a bunch of new Galaxy phones, more expensive, pretty much kind of the same as the last year's phones, except the big gimmick, which is the top of the line $1,200 model, has a 200 megapixel image, not an image sensor, but it can shoot photos at 200 megapixel compared to your most iPhones, which are 12 megapixel.
What?
Which Mark is saying, so what, right?
I'm asking you why that's important.
Sharper resolution. For something that
isn't that something we all want? Aren't we all going for sharper resolution in every aspect of our life, Jefferson Graham?
We want it. It's mostly gimmicky because most big cameras are 24 to 48 megapixel, and they're 200 megapixel is just taking a bunch of megapixels and merging them all together into a hodgepodge of photos. The bottom line is that according to Samsung, you'll be able to get better shots in low light. I'll believe it when I see it. I'm a skeptic. What the Galaxy phone does have that beats the iPhone camera is a 10x zoom. The best we have is a 3x zoom. So, and that's digital zoom. I'm sorry, optical zoom. So you can get basically the equivalent of a 200 millimeter lens, which I would love to have on the iPhone. If Samsung can do it, let's have it on the iPhone. I prefer the iPhone operation, the whole Apple world. So I'm not a Galaxy fan, but some people swear by it.
I have used the Galaxy phone in the past. As a matter of fact, I'm a new iPhone user, but when I had my Galaxy, people used to comment on the quality of my pictures all of the time. What I noted, I kind of pulled the picture up while you were talking. You can see there's the one in the middle, there's looks like five circles for the camera. That's a lot. Why so many?
That's a lot. It's just different lenses, different choices. My problem with the Galaxy phones is there's so many gimmicks that when you play with them, they seem cool the first time, but then they're not as much fun. I find the image quality better on the iPhone, but what can I tell you? I'm biased on that one. I'd love to go try the Galaxy S23 and see what's going on. In other tech news, I think it's pretty cool that last week on the show.
Jeff,
okay,
stop.
I'm sorry.
Stop. After
sorry.
the major announcement, we have to
You're the host.
that was the major announcement. Please, would.
This has been a major announcement of the Mark Thompson Show. Major announcement.
Jeff, I don't know how you do your show, but we have processes and protocols and standards. So that's
okay.
Okay, now please continue, sir.
Last week on this show, I told everybody about how to get Showtime for free by subscribing to Showtime to watch everything everywhere all at once and then unsubscribing immediately.
And did Showtime call you?
30 days of free service. Okay.
Jefferson,
now Jim Avila said, yeah, but Jeff, you'll be forced to actually watch that movie. Good luck with that. And I'm with them on that. I tried twice and I couldn't get very far. But
not
here's
a
the
not a
news
love
that
for everything everywhere. Yeah, go ahead.
the what I find really interesting. So a week ago, I told you how to get it for free. This week, Showtime has been disbanded. It's been bundled into Paramount Plus. Goodbye, Showtime. A week later. Yeah.
Yeah, that is pretty wild.
Yeah.
So even as we were recommending it, we didn't know it, but on the inside, they were on their last leg.
Yes, it's going to become effective later in the year. It hasn't become effective now. And I think that on cable, Showtime will be called Paramount Plus. And on web,
That's not
on
fake.
streaming,
That's
it's
real.
going to be Paramount Plus with Showtime.
More and more, Jefferson Graham, won't that be the way things go? There are just so many. I think Kim was commenting on it last week that there's so many different services that were supposed to, I think her point was, be less expensive. And, you know, if you cut the cord and just have all these different streaming services, but there are also many, you know, they're $9.99 to $13.99, $5.99 here. I mentioned that I didn't even realize that I had Paramount Plus actually was the one. It's $9.99 until I got the bill. Like, oh my God, that's right. I have Paramount Plus. I was watching that Godfather movie, like the making of the Godfather. Anyway,
that was a good one.
Won't they all become consolidated? Is my point.
Yes, because there's only room for. Well, they used to say there was room for 2.5, whatever that means, right? And I don't know, 3. But you know, so HBO Max is turning into a service called Max because it's going to be HBO Max plus Discovery Plus. I don't want Discovery Plus. I couldn't care less about Discovery Plus. I don't need it. So I think that's an ill-fated, dumb move. But that's the way the media companies are going, is they're just pushing everything together and claiming that there'll be more content when in fact there'll be less content.
You know, this is such an interesting thing you just pointed out, and I hadn't really thought of it until just now when you pointed it out. Our cable or satellite or however you get the sort of mainstream, I'm going to call it an older school way to get television viewing, it's filled with stuff we don't want to watch. Most of the channels are things we don't want to watch. I'm in my hospital room with my dad, when my dad's in the hospital, and I'm flipping through, you know, different channels, and there are, I don't know, 70 of them, and I'm just trying to get to ESPN or to the news or to something that I thought, you know, might be, or comedy. I wanted something maybe positive and fun in the show, or a classic movie. Anyway, I'm wading through so much stuff. So the great thing about getting the one of the services you've described is you begin to sector those things that you like. But if you bundle it all together, it's going to end up being the same jumble of crap that I've got to wade through in traditional television.
Yeah, and good luck finding anything. I mean, that's a lot of work, right? Finding stuff on there through all those tiles. You know, PhotoWalks is on Amazon right now. And so people say, well, that's great. You're on Amazon. Good luck finding it. Good luck. Unless you do a search for my name, you might find it. By the way, I just want to let you know that I never travel without this guy. So,
how about that?
But now that I know PhotoWalks is on Amazon, I can go look for it and watch you on the big screen.
Right. So I'll just have to be louder about promotion.
That's right.
But you can watch them on the big screen on YouTube already. You know, if you have YouTube on the TV.
Yeah, which I
Jeff, I do. There it is, PhotoWalks TV, and there's his QR code if you want to grab it. Leave it up there for a second. While we're looking at that, if there's any other tech news, please share it. I'm taking any questions for Jeff in the chat that I'll pass on to you. Where did Hulu wind up? Asks SF Tesla. I think Hulu's still up there, isn't it? I mean,
Hulu is still there. The question mark is what happens at some point next year. Comcast, which owns 1/3 of it, and Disney owns 2/3. Does Disney buy Comcast's 1/3, or does Comcast buy Disney's 2/3? I think the logic is that Disney will keep it because they'll get a lot more out of it than Comcast would. Oh, speaking of Comcast, I have more streaming news for you, which is that Peacock, which initial tier was free, has been shelved. And so now it's a minimum of $4.99 if you want to see the old NBC shows with ads, or $9.99 if you want to see the NBC shows and original programming. for the, once again, here we go, paying for more money. Somebody asked about Netflix password
But
sharing.
before you get to the Netflix, I want to just piggyback on the Peacock, because Peacock is an interesting story, and it's a technology story. Peacock started in this, as you know, awful way. They were listing horribly, looked like they would sink. Really, they were viewed as almost a laughingstock of the streaming community. They did very, very poorly on their rollout. There wasn't enough content. It was suggested that the content that was there was sort of rerunny, blah, blah, blah. Cut to now, Peacock is the #2 streamed network. It's the #2 streaming service out there. They went from, if you will, worst to almost first. So it's kind of a real story of kind of back from the dead when you look at the Peacock world.
It may be back from the dead, but it ain't #2. #2 would be Hulu. Oh, actually, #2 would be Disney Plus. So Netflix, Disney Plus, followed by Hulu.
Well, if you want accurate information, don't come here. Let me. I will find it for you. But I thought they said that.
Trust me.
All
It's
right.
coming
Okay,
back.
go ahead. Yeah.
It's coming back. It's coming back. But yeah, it's most of us thought that would be the first to go. I also thought Paramount Plus was ready to go too, but I'm surprised they're still there. But they're still there.
Now you were talking about Netflix and sharing password. I think that was the question.
Yeah, they've announced that they'll be cracking down on the password sharing. They haven't announced how they're gonna crack down, and that's expected anytime in the next few weeks.
Any other questions before we get into the recommending of shows?
Yeah, I hear that Poker Face is great. This is a new series that got really good reviews. It's supposedly very much like Columbo, and it's with Natasha Lyonne, who we first met in Orange is the New Black, that was on Netflix.
Have you been following the whole TikTok thing?
About let's outlaw TikTok in the United States.
Yeah, well, there's a congressman now, a Democrat, who's saying he's asking Apple and Google to kick TikTok out of their app stores. Doesn't want it in there even at all.
Yeah, Michael Bennet, the senator from Colorado, because TikTok is owned by by a Chinese company, and if the Chinese government asked for anything, they would have to hand it over. This has been going on for several years. Trump tried to ban it, and then that sort of went away. It'll be interesting to see what happens. I don't understand why they just don't sell the company to somebody over here and erase this issue, but they have it. The fact that this U.S. senator is calling for this is big news. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Isn't it the case, though, that the Chinese government does own TikTok? I mean, I guess they own everything.
No, Chinese company. Well, I'm not up on Chinese politics. A company called ByteDance owns it, but I guess Chinese government can do whatever they want with anything that's there, right?
Right. Yeah. So the idea is that somehow data that is supplied by the company to the Chinese government puts Americans under the umbrella of surveillance from the Chinese government. I mean, at least that's one of the arguments I think against it. Yeah.
Right. So if we do a video at your house of you doing an outro to your YouTube video and we put it on TikTok, they now have your location, the Chinese government.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Well, there's very little at my house that they would want, but on the other hand,
I wonder though, if you put something, if you censor something like that and say, okay, Apple and Google, kick it out of your app stores, which really makes it not available to most people. Isn't that kind of the same as outlawing it in the United States in a way? I mean, if you make it inaccessible.
You make it inaccessible to new customers, but all those phones that have it, unless Apple could disable it, Google couldn't, because Android is Samsung and Google and LG and all these different phone companies all over the world. I don't think Google would be able to disable TikTok, but who knows?
Yeah. Jefferson Graham, if there are no other questions related to technology or anything we can address, by the way, YouTube TV is getting a lot of love. You like YouTube TV, as I recall, Jefferson Graham. Do you not? No, you do not. Jefferson Graham does not like YouTube TV.
No.
Once again, my recollection.
$65 a month, and you're paying for a whole bunch of channels that I don't want to watch.
I love
And
YouTube
that-
TV, says Denise, local channels and unlimited DVR, but you don't like it because you're saying so. You feel the optimal plan is what? Is there one, or does it really depend on who you
Well,
are?
Sling TV is half the price. And it just depends on what cable channels you want. Do you want to watch cable channels? I don't, but Mark, you may. And Kim, you may. I cut the cord. I really cut the cord. So the only thing I have is, I have the Fire TV and the menu that comes up on there. And so I have the streaming services and an antenna. Somebody else had written about an antenna. Antennas are great. I mean, I get all the local channels on the antenna, and then I watch a whole lot of YouTube. But I don't watch YouTube TV. I watch YouTube itself for the clips, for great programming like the Mark Thompson Show live every day, Monday through Friday.
That is brilliant. Very well said. Thank you. I'll just note this as a as a public acknowledgement. Jeff is the guy who helps us with the thumbnails every day and the titling on the show. So thank you. Yeah, it really is special, and it's a real cool thing he does. He does it so solid. Okay, quickly in the last couple seconds, what happens is if you're new, Jeff will play a little bit of a TV theme on his guitar. You in the chat have to identify the TV theme, and we begin.
Now, I first want to say, let the audience select what song am I about to play? What do they think I'm about to play today?
Is it a TV theme?
Of course. Yeah.
Okay. Just want to make sure. Okay, go ahead.
Anybody have any guesses?
Oh, you mean without even?
We're gonna make our dreams come true. That's right. We're doing our way.
Do we know that, audience?
Laverne and Shirley.
Okay.
Very nice, right?
Did we know that, folks?
I know that theme, but I don't know what it is.
Is that the Tonight Show? Entertainment Tonight?
It's Entertainment Tonight, exactly. Yeah. Very well done, Kim. Come on.
Okay.
Very strong.
This is going to stump the crowd, so I'll be really surprised if they get it. But let's try it.
Area Backroad.
No. People's Court? Somebody said?
Misha.
So, Misha, bravo. Not easy. Very impressive. Very, very impressive. Wow. I have to say, that was those are tougher. Kim was strong on the pickup, and then the audience was strong on the rest.
Okay, I'm going to do one more to say goodbye to.
Beverly
Hillbillies. Yeah. That is true.
Beverly Hillbillies.
Yeah.
Y'all come back now, you hear?
Y'all come back now, you hear? He is with us on Thursdays. Jefferson Graham, we love you, and we thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Always fun. Always thank you, Jefferson. Bye. Right on. Yeah.
I love how when he plays the guitar, he's so good at it.
Yeah, he is. Love him.
Oh, we got a little harp there. That's nice.
Yeah, I don't know what that was. I just hit a button actually on my end.
Oh, is that what happened?
I randomly hit a button. I thought, oh, here you go.
I'm expecting Snyder to hop in here any minute.
I know. I have a limited palette, and Albert usually is the guy, but I just thought he was we have so many fewer ways to do things, so I was just trying to help out. Smash the like.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Right on, Albert. I don't have time for Law and Disorder. I'll try to get to it. Well, we're going to do Law with David Katz coming up. Now, David Katz Well, we sent him the link to join us after Kim's news at 11 o'clock. Albert, did you speak with David Katz?
I was not able to talk to him, but let me try to call him one more time, but keeping my fingers crossed.
Okay, so then this makes this a pure challenge. The challenge is to predict accurately whether David Katz will be able to, only given, we don't have Tony today. Tony usually helps work things. Only given the link, will David Katz, who has efforted this in the past and run into problems, but he's also surprised and successfully linked, will he today, with only the link sent to him, will the esteemed mind and legal scholar, the former federal prosecutor, now defense attorney, will he, with only the link, be able to join our show? I ask you, Kim, will David Katz make it, or will he have issues?
While I have faith in many things David Katz related, I don't have faith that he will be able to link to the show today. Thumbs down.
I will ask you, Albert, do you think David Katz will be able to link to the show today on only the link being given him?
Yep, I think it'll. It's gonna happen. You just have to believe. You got to speak it into existence. The Niners will win the next Super Bowl as well.
Well, okay, so there's more going on there than an actual prediction. You're trying to will it into the universe. Okay.
Yeah, he's manifesting.
I'm asking for a prediction. I'm not asking who's going to will it into the universe. I have a prediction that he will not. But as you know, I tend to have a pessimistic, bleak outlook toward everything. So who knows? I hope he makes it. And Albert is going to help, because Albert is going to call him and make sure everything's great. I desperately want him. I've got all kinds of things to ask him about, and I will, regardless of whether he joins or not, discuss the next legal move that Hunter Biden has made. You know, Hunter Biden has pretty much been the poster boy for GOP abuse, and there might be legitimate reason to be, to be looking closely at Hunter Biden, at his business dealings and the rest. But there are now legal counterpunches that are being offered by the Biden team. Hunter Biden has now put together a legal team. In fact, there's even something of a GoFundMe. I mean, it's not a GoFundMe, but it's there is a fundraising effort out of the Biden camp for Hunter Biden's legal fees, because they're substantial. I'm talking about millions of dollars. Out of that legal team that is being funded in that way I just described, they have a counterpunch now to all of those GOP legal abuses. I'll tell you what that counterpunch is, and we will discuss that strategy with David Katz as we continue. Smash the like button like a boss. Got a whole other hour. Belinda Waymouth with It's the Planet Stupid, and as mentioned, David Katz next. Mark Thompson Show.
We hope.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Almost. We almost got it.
It's okay.
All right. Well, listen, we get it off the launch pad this time. No, we didn't.
No matter. I'm Kim McAllister on the
It's
Mark
a
Thompson
homegrown
Show.
kind of thing. Yes. Go ahead, Kim.
It's all right. It's okay. Ilhan Omar. The House Republicans are booting this Congresswoman, Ilhan Omar, from a key committee. The House voted in favor of ousting the Minnesota Democrat from the Foreign Affairs Committee as punishment for a controversial comment she made about Israel. By the way, this report is sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz at 888 Tax Deal. Now, ahead of that vote, Congresswoman Omar said it was no surprise the new GOP majority was targeting her, and her voice in Congress won't be diminished. House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries called the move political revenge. President Biden will be delivering the State of the Union address, State of the Union next week, but many Americans feel the nation's going in the wrong direction. That, according to a new Gallup survey, a majority of Americans only have a positive view on two things. Those are the overall quality of life and opportunity for a person to get ahead by working hard. One Democratic senator.
What are their overall quality of life and the opportunity for a person to get ahead? So what is the other stuff that's making people
everything else
not so?
Everything else. Thumbs down. Not
well,
going
I mean,
in the right direction.
If you're asking people if they have faith in U.S. government, it would seem to me you're always going to get a negative. I think I'll just make this comment quickly, but I think if you think about it, this is correct. You have to recalibrate a lot of these approval numbers, presidential approval numbers, government approval numbers. We become a much more wary, cynical public. And as a result, you're going to get numbers that are lower when it comes to optimism about the future. And these are, to be fair, these are times fraught with issues. You know, war in Ukraine that's teetering, and as we've discussed, could actually end up in a nuclear confrontation. My God, I mean, you're talking about an Armageddon type thing. You've got climate change, which is radically changing the way we live our lives, droughts and major climate events affecting life. I get it. Not to mention a pandemic. There are a lot of reasons not to be so keen on things, and you can put some of the fault of some of these things at the feet of government and at the general optimism about government and the future of things.
Sure.
Yeah.
And they're doing that. Exactly that. Yes. We just talked about this just a moment ago with Jefferson Graham, but there's a Democratic senator who wants Apple and Google to remove TikTok from their app stores. Michael Bennett of Colorado making the plea in a letter to the CEOs of Apple and Google's parent company Alphabet. The Chinese internet company's ByteDance owns TikTok, and Bennett is concerned about the collection of Americans' data. But Bennett's letter was sent as a national security concern, has been at the forefront of many lawmakers' minds when it comes to this app, TikTok. California lawmakers would like
I just wanted to interrupt Kim, because Anonymous is making fun of the fact that I am interrupting your news.
Oh, no, that's what we like that, though. I like when
Al Anonymous says interrupting Kim's news. Classy.
It's okay. I want your comment. Yeah.
Al, that's what I'm here to do, is interrupt the news. Don't you understand? That's the deal.
It's actually my fault for not pausing long enough between stories to let you
jump
in.
It's Kim's fault, Al.
Thank you. I'll take the blame.
I'm taking all of our listeners and viewers on a magnificent, luxurious cruise. And you know who I'm leaving on the dock? Al Anonymous. That's right.
We have to bring Al with us. Al's here every day. We'll take him. Come bring him along. He's all right. Let's talk about guns. Did you have anything else to say, Mark?
No, I wanted to open up the blowtorch on Al for a moment, and now I'm taking it back.
California lawmakers would like to strengthen existing concealed carry weapon laws after 2 recent mass shootings. State Senator Anthony Portantino making an announcement yesterday about legislation he authored that would set standards on getting a concealed carry weapon permit in California. The restrictions would include a minimum age of 21 to receive that permit and safe community places where people should expect freedom from gun violence. The proposal comes after shootings, of course, in Monterey Park near Los Angeles and Half Moon Bay near the San Francisco area. Hunter Biden apparently finally admitting that laptop belongs to him. Attorneys now would like a criminal probe into this as well. A computer repair shop owner said Hunter left the laptop years ago and then never came back to pick it up. But the FBI picked up the laptop in 2019. The owner, though, had made a copy of everything on it and given it to Rudy Giuliani's lawyer. Hunter Biden's attorneys claimed that information from his laptop was stolen and trafficked. The request for investigations included in letters sent to the Department of Justice, the IRS, and the Delaware Attorney General. As Mark said, now Hunter Biden has a legal team together. There is a number of major upcoming films that will be advertising with their trailers on Super Bowl Sunday. Yes, so Marvel Studios' Ant-Man and the Wasp, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and The Marvels, all expected to have trailers aired during the game. Disney will air spots for The Little Mermaid, Elemental, and Indiana Jones, The Dial of Destiny. Meantime, Warner Brothers is expected to show an ad for DC's The Flash, while Universal is debuting its trailer for Fast X, also known as Fast and Furious 10. Meantime, a pregame 15-second spot for Cocaine Bear will air before kickoff. Yeah, this is going to be like movies and the Super Bowl, right? A lot of movies. Anything? Nothing from Mark. Okay.
It's an advertiser's dream, and it becomes a mountain of different kinds of advertising, so I'm not surprised. But it's just so funny when you list them like that. I did one Super Bowl ad as a voiceover. Well, that's not true. I've done actually maybe more than one. But and I was being talked to about doing a Super Bowl ad this year. But I'll just mention this quickly because I have David Katz waiting. I hope. The thing about a Super Bowl ad is it's a great ego thing. You're on the Super Bowl in front of all these people. But from a voiceover artist standpoint, it's not so great because a lot of those commercials are just one-offs. You just do it once. So you make less than $1,000 even on it. You want, I'd rather have a campaign that never airs on the Super Bowl from the standpoint of making a living. But from the standpoint of peacocking and beating your chest and saying, look at me, then it's great to have a Super Bowl commercial.
Well, and I've noticed that when it's a Super Bowl ad, people try to figure out who that person is. Whose voice is that? Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
And they tend to make a lot of those kinds of, if we look at Morgan Freeman, who has got, more voiceover work than any, 1,000 people who are in that world. They try to do a lot of stunt casting with that, so they always try to make the voices and those who appear in commercials. They're usually high profile people. Go ahead. Sorry.
Like you, Mark Thompson.
Yes, thank you.
Actor Morgan Freeman is helping to choose prospective police officers in Gulf Shores, Alabama. He was in town yesterday to take part in the interview process. Freeman owns property in the city. He's part of a 7-member panel that helps the police department evaluate recruits. The city routinely invites professionals to participate in the selection process. Can you imagine going for your interview and there's Morgan Freeman? So tell me, how would you police the community?
It's the opposite of the Shawshank Redemption parole board, right?
Exactly.
Do you feel like you're a reformed man? Right. No, sir.
I wonder what his questions were on that panel. This report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz. For more than 30 years, Steve has put his tax knowledge to work for everyone, whether you're an individual, whether you're filing jointly, whether you've got a business, whatever your situation, Steve Moskowitz has got your back. He's at 888 Tax Deal. He's also at moskowitzllp.com. I'm Kim McAllister on The Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Smash it with your iron rod.
Who's Mark Thompson?
Hey, which one of you is Mark Thompson?
What he's got going here is a situation.
It's unbelievably offensive.
Put up your pants, my man. Pull up those pants.
Ralph Nader just sent me a book. Did he send you one too?
I offer this sincere apology to you today.
Everything is going extremely well.
Call me a liar. Now what you call him?
You, sir, are a liar.
You are a cover-up artist, and you are a liar.
Liar, liar, your pants are on fire!
A Google told me.
Can you let him finish, sir?
It was wrong, it was stupid, and I'm trying to be a better person.
No, no, no.
I'm going to tell you what I think.
What are the porn stars doing?
Do you have a secret now?
Doesn't anybody better weed?
100% effective. How about that?
Say what?
And this is their new home.
There is no defense for my conduct.
I misspoke. I stand corrected.
And I wanted to apologize to the Asian community, the Asian American community.
Time's up, mother effers.
Woohoo! Hour 2. Great to have you with us. It's Mark Thompson Show. We're live from Washington, D.C. My dad in the hospital. I'm back here in my mom and dad's house. This is the house where I begged for the car, where I screamed at my parents that they didn't know anything. What other great things happened here? It's a place where I, at this dinner table just 6 weeks ago, was talking to my mom and dad and everything was fine. And then, life happens and things change. Yeah. COVID has really crushed my father. and he was fully vaxxed and everything, and he's in the hospital really trying to get his mind back, trying to get his breathing back, trying to get his mobility back, trying to get his strength back. So I'm here with my mother in the house. I'll be here one more week, and then I'll be back in California as we kind of hope to get Dad out of the hospital, and then I'll be back after that. So it's sort of back and forth. At least that's the plan in this moment. One of the great things is that our regular contributors have stepped up, and they're all still here. This show is, apart from the fact that I'm on location, is exactly as it always is. So thank you for smashing the like button. And how about a warm Mark Thompson Show welcome? Let's see if it happens. We've sent him the link, and I'm hoping he comes in, and to a smooth landing, he arrives. The former assistant U.S. attorney. He is the great David Katz, everybody.
Oh, here he is.
David, can you hear us?
With you.
Nice.
Wow. David, we can hear you cleanly. This is amazing. Very, very cool.
It's great to be with you. And I spent some years in Washington, D.C. I was a law clerk to the federal judge, John Garrett Penn, back there on 3rd and Constitution. And then I worked at a law firm there. I spent a summer in the office of the Solicitor General that argues before the U.S. Supreme Court. So it's nostalgic for me to have you there in Washington, D.C.
Oh, that's great, David. Thank you. You know, I used to deliver papers here, David, to, among other people, a federal judge. And I remember, this is the way that worked back then. They made us, the paper boys, buy all the papers, and then we had to collect from the people that we delivered the paper to. And it's just awful because you have to try to catch the people when they're at home. They literally were paying you in cash for every month. And the one guy I could never get to pay was that federal judge.
Whoa.
I went to his house at dinner time. I went to his house early in the morning. Never. So I essentially paid for a federal judge's paper and paper delivery.
Judge Penn lived out in Silver Spring, Maryland, so I don't think he was on your paper route.
No. He was most certainly
it definitely was not him.
No. Most certainly
Were you ever
not.
asked to slip a little note into the federal judge's newspaper? You know how they do.
Well, I did. I mean, I did saying, you know, I really would like to collect this, whatever.
They do this to me all the time. I don't know what the hell they do it for.
And whenever somebody came to the door, it was never the judge. It was always somebody else. And they said,
Sure.
I don't know. I'm just a cleaning lady, whatever they said. Anyway, that's just both of us with anecdotes of Washington life. David, can I start with the Hunter Biden thing? He's put together essentially a legal counterpunch to a lot of the legal problems that have been related to to the laptop, you know, and to the information, and I use it in quotes, that's on the laptop. Can we just review where those legal challenges might leave him and that whole situation?
Sure. I think one of the problems that he has is he does not want to admit that it was his laptop. And he said previously that he doesn't think that he dropped it off, or if he did drop it off, he doesn't recall that, which seems kind of wishy-washy. But he doesn't want to get himself into a situation where he admits that that's his laptop and that everything on it presumably then is his. Somebody planted it on his laptop. So he's wanted to avoid that, but it's meant that he hasn't had much of a counter-offensive. And now that the Republicans are in charge of the House and they're planning to go after him hard, he's hired Abby Lowell. Abby Lowell, I've actually met him, he's a terrific attorney, and he represented John Edwards successfully. And as I say, he's a very renowned attorney. I think he's a great addition to the team. He sent out a letter both to the federal government, the Department of Justice, and also to the state prosecutors or state authorities in Delaware saying, why isn't somebody investigating you guys stealing my laptop? Again, being very careful not to say it was my laptop. And he also argues that there was a conspiracy that people ought to look into among Giuliani, Bannon, and a few others that got to the repairman at that shop. Now, the fellow at the shop says it became abandoned property because Hunter never picked it up. But the counter to the counter is that apparently the repair shop owner was, sort of a fellow traveler with all these super right-wingers. And he actually saw, oh, my God, I have Hunter Biden's laptop. He looked at it the very next day. So he didn't look at it 3 months or 4 months later when he could have argued it was abandoned property. He looked at it right away. There doesn't seem to be any dispute that he sent it to Giuliani Giuliani's attorney said kind of, so what? And Giuliani said, so what? But I've always wondered why nobody has looked into the fact that if I drop something off at a repair shop, it's for a designated purpose, right? I'm basically, it's a bailment. We learned that in law school. It's a bailment, but for a designated purpose, not to send it to the world, but to repair it and give it back to me, and not make a copy for yourself either. I think that's what most people would understand if they took their laptop in for repair.
This is an interesting legal counterpunch, as I've said before, because up to this time, we haven't really heard much from that entire world of Hunter Biden. As you say, he's just sort of, he's laid back. He's clearly got issues. I mean, I'm talking about life issues, but the legal part, it feels as though it's more propaganda driven than it is legally driven. But maybe I'm wrong. What are they saying is on that laptop that's so illegal?
Well, what a lot of people have heard about is the salacious part, that supposedly he's having sex and doing drugs at the same time, maybe with more than one sex partner.
I don't really care about that, right? That legal. Yeah. I personally don't care about that. But anyway, go ahead.
That's not a good look. And, these demagogues like these propagandists like Jim Jordan, now that he has this big House seat, right, this big House position, he's going to try to play that for all it's worth. After he says the Pledge of Allegiance, then he's going to say, oh, my God, the president's son was having really kinky sex and doing a lot of drugs. As you say, that is sort of a so what legally, but they'll use it for the propaganda value. There's another thing on there, Mark, though, which is income. So apparently there's an income fee. It shows exactly what Hunter Biden made over those years. And it's something for the Republicans, right, that now control the House, for them to look into. And then they hope that they're going to find something about the president. Because as the head of this investigations committee said, a Republican, this investigation is not about Hunter. It's really about Joe Biden, the president. So that's obviously where they want to go. They hope that they can find some connection on there that makes it, some memo about a meeting, something that makes it look like somehow Joe Biden was helping Hunter Biden, meet the right people, make this money, show up at a meeting where his son trumpeted that, I've got influence with my dad, and then his dad would actually show up and glad hand the people there. I think it's a total nothing burger, but they want to use it for whatever propaganda value. I agree with you. It's more propaganda than legal at the end of the day.
I want to, unless you have anything more on that, I wanted to ask you about what is the biggest news in Trump land, which is the likely court case, and the first one to make it to the finish line. There are all of these different, I would think, competing legal entanglements that Trump has. And it looks as though it's the payoff that will likely make it to a courtroom first. Can you weigh in on that?
Well, there was a huge article in the New York Times about a grand jury presentation by the New York City DA against Trump regarding the payoff to Stormy Daniels. But I think on balance, that case is likely not to go anywhere. I think that the DA in New York City was under political pressure. It's obviously a very democratic city, that he was dropping the ball and he wasn't even pursuing this. So I think he's going to present it to a grand jury. But at the end of the day, I certainly don't think that Trump will be found guilty by a jury after being charged before the 2024 election. And I don't think on balance, he's even going to be charged. The problems with that case are that it does rely on Michael Cohen. And, it's almost like the omerta, that Trump, in my opinion, he had something on all these people. He didn't have like normal, super competent professionals like you or I would hire. He hired people like Michael Cohen, like this Alan Weisselberg. And in part, I think he knew that I think that Trump thought very, very clearly, kind of like a racketeer, that, what'll happen? What's my plan B when these people all turn on me? And he surrounded himself with people who would be not very credible. And so that's the problem that I think the prosecutors are going to have with this payoff case. The only one who benefited was Trump. Why on earth would a lawyer reach into his own pocket and take $130,000 of his money to go pay off something for his client, unless his client told him to do something? And he said that he knew from the client that the client, Trump, was going to reimburse the lawyer Cohen. But, Weisselberger, with all the trouble he's in, and he's in Rikers Island prison as we speak, has never said that Trump did anything criminal. He went all the way through, Mark, being a cooperator without cooperating against Trump. And then you just have, Trump's defense will be as 10 days before the election, I was running around this place, that place. The lawyer said he was going to do something. The lawyer did it. He paid this money, and I didn't really know the laws. And it's all very technical. When I was on with Pat Thurston, she said, "You mean this man said he could run for president? He knew enough to be president, but he didn't know enough to comply with a simple, campaign financing law." But that will be his argument. And remember, they have to prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt to the satisfaction of all 12 jurors. So I think that the two cases that are really good at this point are the state case in Georgia, because they have Trump on tape saying, "Find me 11,700 votes," finding meaning concoct me, corruptly, plant, do something, make it look like I got 11,000 votes that I didn't. It seems that's a strong case in state court in Fulton County, Georgia. And of course, the big case federally is the insurrection. I think if they're going to get him for anything, it's going to be the insurrection. I think the Mar-a-Lago documents, as awful as what Trump did, as much as he obstructed justice, in my opinion, I think it's all, between Pence and Biden, and there's other search warrants that have been now against Biden. I think that case loses appeal as being the first case ever brought against a former president of the United States. I just don't think that one. So I think if people are looking for the cases that are likely to really go somewhere, it's the insurrection against Trump, the January 6th, marauding of the Capitol, the coup, the attempted coup that almost worked, and the find me 11,000 votes down in Georgia in state court.
Yeah, particularly, I suppose, David, just on the document thing, now that documents are cropping up everywhere, it seems to be, I understand they are different, these cases. It would seem as though there's an obstruction case. Let's not even worry about the documents. There were obstruction cases that seemed to be plausible during the Trump administration when he asked McGahn, I think it was, to change the record of the conversation that I think and erase one of the conversations that was actually going down in the Oval Office. This guy is, tripping over these obstruction cases, on his way to getting rid of other obstruction cases, it would seem to me. And I thought, just to your point, that Georgia case, for the reasons that you said, and again, this is just, I'm a layperson looking at all of this, but, reading these pieces as to what's most damning, that, yeah, with him on a recorded call asking for someone to tamper with an election, that was the thing that was going to make it to the finish line first. And so, indeed, you're saying that still may be. Don't necessarily believe the headlines about the payoff. The payoff, there are too many other ways, even though it strains credulity that, he reimbursed the lawyer, Cohen, that he didn't know about it. There are too many other ways for him to wriggle out of it. You still feel that Georgia case really stands the best chance?
I think that stands the best chance. I think that there's some optics that are very strange about a former president being charged in a state court in Atlanta between the demonstrations that would take place and all of that. But I think that there's no reason that should not happen from the point of view of the district attorney down there. So I think that's one that may really move forward.
As you see Trump generally being slow walked through the judicial process, can you explain to us why people like Trump and the white collar community, just in general, seems to the judicial process just seems to move far more slowly for these people of privilege than it does for the rest of us?
Well, after being an assistant United States attorney, I've been a criminal defense attorney, mainly specializing in these federal white-collar cases. I used to joke that I thought Trump was going to be my client, not my president, because this is the kind of conduct that you do see in white-collar cases. You see this kind of bankruptcy fraud. Somehow, all 5 of the hotels fail, but somehow Trump comes out of it smelling like a rose. Other people are screaming the unions aren't paid, the vendors aren't paid. But somehow, Trump lands on his feet, and, a bankruptcy fraud is not prosecuted very much. That is not abnormal that he slid out of that one. And if you look at Trump never really was a huge corporate executive. That was a fairly small company. Trump's really is a fairly small company. But if you look around, let's say the Great Recession that we had, you remember that Obama was criticized that individuals were not charged. High up financiers were not charged in that. And so that is not that abnormal, really, that we've seen a lot of people not charged when you might expect that they would be.
Right.
I'm sorry about that. I didn't turn off my
You're getting
phone.
a call? That's a special...
I'm sorry.
Is that Pat Thurston, David Katz, calling you during our conversation? Give her my best.
I'm really sorry about that. I just...
No,
some of the things that you don't think of when you're on live media.
It's fine. Yeah.
But I think that the cases do move very slowly. That's certainly true.
You said something in all of that. You said that the bankruptcy fraud cases, you said that they actually oftentimes don't come to court, or people get off the hook on bankruptcy fraud all the time. I think you put it that way. What does that mean?
Well, it means that they're very hard cases to to prosecute.
Give me an example of a bankruptcy fraud, I guess might be another way to put the question.
The kind that do get prosecuted, the attorney gives his, it could be an attorney, it could be a business person, whatever. But, this is the sort of the one that comes to mind kind of situation. He puts his beautiful Jaguar in the girlfriend's name. Then he declares bankruptcy fraud. He doesn't list the Jaguar as an asset. He breaks up with the girlfriend. She's mad at him. She drops a dime on him and says, hey, you know what Mr. Smart Lawyer did? You know what Mr. Shrewd Businessman did? He put this thing in my name. He signed a petition. He didn't own anything in bankruptcy fraud. Believe it or not, that's what the federal courts do. I mean, Mark, they call themselves the major frauds unit, and some of them are major frauds. Some of them are very minor frauds. A lot of criticism is that the feds do go after low-hanging fruit. A lot of the agencies especially are driven by their stats. They get a stat if it's a low-hanging, fairly small case. They get a stat of having indicted one or two people if it's a very complex case. I had a case in LA where I had the number 2 person, but she was way number 2. She just followed orders from Mr. Big. He went in there and said, well, I think number 2 must have done it. And number 2, when she was interviewed, she said, well, yeah, I guess I really am at fault. So they went after her alone. The government asked for 3 years. We had a judge who really understood the case. He didn't give her 1 day in prison. And the government here, the major frauds unit in Los Angeles, had asked for 3 years. She didn't get 1 day in jail. But did Mr. Big ever get prosecuted? No. The agency got its stat. 1 person was convicted. 1 person was sentenced. And so it's really not that unusual.
Wow.
I know it's frustrating
that story is amazing. That story is because they just want to check the boxes and move on.
There's a lot of agencies that are driven that way. And, we haven't even talked about the IRS and the Criminal Investigation Division at the IRS. But, one of the things, they're having this huge new number of agents, huge new amount of funding. And, it's just so hard to make it actually go after the top cases because those people really fight back. I mean, if they hire me, I fight back. That's what I'm supposed to do. And that's what I do. But in terms of policy, how the system works, they shouldn't focus on the low-hanging fruit, the small amounts of money. But everybody who out there listening knows that the IRS spends a lot of its time going after chump change from very small taxpayers. And, when do they get these people who have a huge amount? They have all kinds of defenses. They send money offshore. I had one client who said, look, if Apple and Amazon don't pay, I don't want to pay. It's like, dude, that's not a defense. That's not a defense that Amazon and Apple get away with. But you know what they do? They claim that all the value is added offshore. They claim it's all added in a place like Ireland used to be with very, very low taxes. And they never pay Uncle Sam anything close to what they ought to. And if they're going to spend all this new money on the IRS, they really need to figure out how to go after the super big boys, the Apples, the Amazons. The ones I'm talking about, the big oil companies that pay such a small percentage. I think there were some stats that they pay. I'm not sure of these stats, but it's a very small amount. I think it was something like 4 or 5% if you really look at how much they pay. And, the average person can get up to 30, 40% taxation between state and local, state and federal, excuse me.
By the way, just to on the Trump thing and on the tax thing, this comment from Al Anonymous, who's my nemesis here. Hearing Trump is charged with X has become similar to shooting at X location. Keeps happening, nothing happens. There is a quality of it all running out. The clock will run out. In our last minute, David Katz, tell me, is there a statute of limitations adjacent aspect to this? In other words, can there be enough delay to the point that it all becomes moot?
Well, normally there's a 5-year statute of limitations in federal cases. One of Trump's arguments about the New York City case is that Merrick Garland was attorney general during a period of time when it would have been timely, it would have been okay under the statute of limitations to have charged Trump federally with this payoff scheme. Merrick Garland, Democratic Attorney General, didn't charge him. I mean, it just makes it very, very difficult for a DA in the face of that argument. It's not a legal argument, but my goodness, I mean, right? Trump will make that argument. And as to the stuff that you said about the Mueller investigation and all those obstructions of justice, you remember they went back and forth where Barr said there was no collusion, no obstruction, but there was very strong evidence of obstruction. A lot of that has run under the 5-year statute of limitations during a period of time when Merrick Garland was the Attorney General, could have brought it because it was timely, but didn't. And by now, some of it has run, some of it is very close to running under the statute. But I will say this one last thing, if I may. The fact that, in my opinion, Trump is a serial criminal and gets investigated for his crimes in many places doesn't mean that he's not a criminal, that he hasn't gotten indicted for one of them yet. Part of it is being the president. Part of it is controlling the Department of Justice when he did, being able to, basically, I thought that he kind of pushed Mueller around. We are where we are, but it doesn't exonerate him that he hasn't been indicted. All of us can look at the evidence. It's been reported, and I think the evidence is overwhelming in many of those cases against Trump.
Well, this is to be continued, obviously, David Katz. It's just disheartening, honestly, to hear of some of the forces that are so strong in this country when it comes to preventing those people like Trump and his organization who have taken advantage of their real damages here, both to the system and to real people. I mean, I see during Trump's administration the damage to many lives, those who were courageous enough to step up to say something, to essentially become whistleblowers, the whole Ukraine call, those who have stepped up as secretaries of state. These Republicans, many of them. They were a part of the January 6th committee hearings, those who stepped up and defended the election count. These are all, many pay a tremendous political price or personal price. And it's sad that justice hasn't really been served to the guy who, is the prime mover in all of that. But again, as I say, that's to be continued. And you've really laid out a lot of the reasons why here today. He is the former assistant U.S. attorney, David Katz, joins us on Thursdays. I really appreciate your takes, pal. Thank you so much for, making the effort to join us every week.
It was great to be with you.
Thank you, David. Yeah. Albert, did you cut him off just as he was about to say something nice? Albert did help make us connect smoothly and everything. So that was very
impressive.
Very thank you, Albert.
I consider myself wrong on that.
Yeah, I also was, as you know, not necessarily someone who felt it was going to happen. Coming up, we have It's the Planet Stupid on Thursdays, news of the environment, news of the planet with Belinda Weymouth. She's standing by in the green room, and we'll get to her after Kim's news. Smash the like button like a boss.
Smash it with your iron rod.
David Katz, really cool takes. Thank you all for being here and supporting the show in all the ways you do. We're on remote from Washington, D.C. Kim's news next. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. This report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz at 888 Tax Deal. Let's start with President Biden and House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, because they say they had a good meeting over the debt ceiling in a rare instance of bipartisanship. The two met yesterday for about an hour, with McCarthy telling reporters they had a good talk. This morning, President Biden telling the National Prayer Breakfast audience he and McCarthy had a good meeting and that they will be treating each other with respect. Congress has to act to raise the country's debt limit to avoid default. McCarthy is rejecting President Biden's clean bill that would only raise the debt ceiling without spending cuts attached. The former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is choosing sides in what could be a pretty heated Senate race here in California. The Democrat released a statement saying she will support Senator Dianne Feinstein if she seeks re-election, and if not, Congressman Adam Schiff will get Pelosi's support. She said Schiff knows well the nexus between a strong democracy and a strong economy. This is an amazing story out of the Hollywood area. Just thank goodness police did this. They say they believe they thwarted a mass shooting with the arrest of a man at a high-rise apartment building in Hollywood. Police say the suspect, identified now as 24-year-old Braxton Johnson of Los Angeles, was arrested this week after they received a report of a man with a mental illness at that building on Gordon Street. When they arrived, police say they found several high-powered weapons, some of which were loaded and pointing at a park not far away. The weapons included sniper and assault rifles along with high-capacity magazines. Police say Johnson had been threatening staff members and other people in that building. Again, reports of a mentally unstable person, and look what they found there.
Wow, it's just incredible. And there's more of that, in the United States of guns. You can legally purchase so much. I'll tell you, that table alone looks like it could be Christmas morning at a lot of houses in America. I mean, really, there's
Probably,
that.
yeah. That is the cash. Those are the weapons that were taken from that apartment.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't even want to think about what would happen if they, if no one had called, if no one had taken that time to dial and say, I think we got a problem here.
Right.
Red flag laws, my friend. Everybody's, needs to know about them and make sure that if you have an instance like that, look what was avoided here. Authorities and family members are revealing details now about this mountain lion attack that left this 5-year-old little boy injured. This happened in San Mateo County. The boy was attacked Tuesday night while hiking with his mother and grandfather in rural Tunitas, just south of Half Moon Bay. The California Department of Fish and Wildlife says the boy had run ahead when the mountain lion pounced, pinned him to the ground, and started biting. The animal didn't let go until the boy's mom charged at it. The boy was treated. He's now out of the hospital, has some pretty deep wounds, though, to his face and neck area. So hope he gets better soon. More tech cuts in the tech world, especially here in the Bay Area. Pinterest cutting jobs to reduce costs, informing about 150 workers yesterday that they will be receiving pink slips. The job cuts amount to less than 5% of the San Francisco-based company's workforce. Here we go again with PG&E. A judge in Northern California says a utility company can indeed stand trial for a fire that left 4 people dead 3 years ago. This happened near Redding. It was known as the Zog Fire. PG&E facing charges that include involuntary manslaughter. However, numerous other alleged crimes were dismissed by the judge. That fire killed victims as young as 8 years old. And Elon Musk, he's back in the news again. Latest move to improve monetization. Twitter is going to start charging developers for access to its application programming interface. Fees go into effect in just a few days. APIs are software tools used by third-party developers to access data from applications and then use it to make new services. And speaking of Elon Musk, House Oversight Committee Chair James Comer will chair the first major congressional hearing on Twitter since Republicans took control of the House. I don't think Elon has a lot to worry about because the Kentucky Republican said, God bless Elon Musk during an interview on CNBC. Seems like he's got a fan in Comer. And lastly, this story coming from director James Cameron. Can you believe they're making a movie or a show about the movie? So here's the story. Director James Cameron says there's one way Jack might have lived in his classic film Titanic. In the film, Leonardo DiCaprio's character Jack dies of hypothermia in the Atlantic Ocean as a wooden panel is only buoyant enough for one person, and he tells Kate Winslet's character Rose to survive. Well, now Cameron has performed a scientific study to see.
Don't mock that scene. I was in tears during that scene. How dare you?
The study
it's a wild idea, but it just might work.
So
whether
do
Jack
forensics?
could have survived as well. This will be featured, this scientific study to see if Jack could have lived in the upcoming National Geographic special Titanic 25 years later with James Cameron. In one scenario, Cameron found Jack found having Jack and Rose position their bodies with their upper halves out of the water made their chance of survival increase. So maybe Jack could have lived. Move over,
the
Kate
old
Winslet.
half the body out of the water trick.
I
Very
mean, come
powerful.
on.
Yeah.
The special airs this Sunday on Nat Geo if you want to, play
Good
along
stuff.
there.
Yeah.
This report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz. For more than 30 years, Steve has put his tax knowledge to work for individuals and businesses. If you need help with your taxes, Steve Moskowitz is your guy. He's at 888-TAX-DEAL or MoskowitzLLP.com. I'm Kim McAllister on The Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Who's Mark Thompson?
Feels great, baby.
Let me kick down the door and talk to my cheap sons and daughters.
No context will suffice to explain the hurt and anguish caused by my words. I apologize to all who have been hurt.
I stand corrected. I misspoke. My words upset so many people.
And I wanted to apologize to the Asian community, the Asian American community.
God bless America. The end.
There's never been anything like this.
Do I hit it long? Is Trump strong? Huh?
Who is having that conversation?
It's fantastic.
That's not fake. That's real.
The science is ridiculous.
How would you handle this? We could try ignoring it, sir. If you get it in order, you get extra points.
Listen to me. I don't want to hear you.
You cannot say you love your country.
Where are my weed smokers at?
This is a word from the Lord, and he's not happy.
There is no defense for my conduct. It was wrong, it was stupid, and I'm trying to be a better person.
Don't ever use that word.
You get nothing.
What's a guilty pleasure you have?
Seriously, what the
I want to thank you for being here. I want to get right to Belinda because Albert, her time is limited. And so can we just, I even want to get past the It's the Planet Stupid open and go right to her. Is that okay with you, Albert? Do I have your blessing to do that?
Yeah, my blessing. Here she is.
Okay. She joins us on Thursdays, and sadly, we have limited time with her. I hope we have her in with us cleanly, but she is a great eco-journalist with good news today about the environment as well, or at least about an effort to save parts of the environment. Warm welcome for Belinda Weymouth, everyone, please.
Hi there. How are you?
I'm so sorry that we are getting to you. Anyway, I want to get right into it. We're well.
Yeah.
You do have good news. It's about a collaboration. It's about saving, and I think increasingly saving parts of the planet, and maybe a way that many parts of the planet will need to be saved. So please, you go.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a really fantastic collaboration that's happening between conservation groups and ranchers. And these two have not always been the best of friends. But the fact is, prairie grasslands are super important. They're incredible carbon sinks. Having that healthy soil, that sequesters a lot of carbon. And also, if you have healthy soils, they have more water in them. They can absorb more water. And as we're just, we're seeing these crazy deluges hit around the world, we need healthy soil. So what farmers are, and the other thing is in the US, we only have half the prairie grasslands that we had before we started settling the grasslands. So half of them are gone, and we're still losing them at a breakneck speed, 1 million acres a year, so the size of Rhode Island. So they're these critical ecosystems, one of the most endangered and least protected habitats in the world. So a really cool thing happened last year. The US government launched $1 billion program that is to fund conservation of land and waters. So that will help the grasslands. And then in the US Senate was introduced the North American Grasslands Conservation Act. And this very act supports things like these conservation easements that are happening, these agreements between conservation groups and farmers. So what happens is ranchers sell the development rights, or they're backed by conservation groups, to buy land on the condition they don't develop the land. And what development means is that you till it, so you put crops in, or you develop it for other things, and not developing it means you only use it to graze livestock. You can use it for hunting and for forestry. And if you do carefully managed grazing, if you, and that is mimicking what wild ungulates, herbivores like your bison, your wildebeest, say on the African continent, before there were fences, they are migratory, and when they graze in tight groups. Their hooves aerate the soil. All their pee and poop are fantastic nutrients that encourage more grass growth. They never ate the grass all the way down to bare earth. They would move on to graze somewhere else. That grass would regrow and sequester more carbon. And so now you've got ranchers who have this injection of cash from these conservation groups, environmental, groups, governmental groups, and they're working in partnership, and they're saving prairie lands, because they're not allowed. The deal is no development into perpetuity. Cool, right?
Right. No, very cool. And I guess what I'm getting from you as well is that this is a coalition. So it's not just the one batch of money. It's the one batch of money meets the other batches of money so that they can acquire more of this land and return it to the way it was naturally and naturally used by the wild livestock that was occupying that land. That's essentially it.
Yeah. I mean, I've read stuff that says that, when the Europeans first got here, the grass was so tall on the prairies that you could be sitting on your horse and you could tie the grass, above the where the pommel of your saddle was. I mean, that's how tall it was. So it's a pretty unbelievable thing. And I think that the everything now is going to be, a team effort. It's going to be about coalitions, different groups that, maybe have different ways of going about things, but have the same goal. Like, we want to preserve these, these prairie grasslands. I mean, one of the things I want to point out to everyone, and I, only have a couple of minutes, is that in 1990, there were only 500,000 of acres of private land was protected by one of these conservation easements, and now there are more than 30 million acres protected that way. So that's a 60-fold increase in these conservation easements in 32 years. That's good news, people.
It really is great news. That is such good news. I love that you have some good news. And in our last minute with you, I mean, I know you have to jump. The livestock to which you referred, some of the, and of course, we consume a tremendous amount of meat worldwide, and livestock and cows, there's a methane production that is a real problem for greenhouse gas emission. Bill Gates is involved in an effort to try to essentially build a feed program. I know about this only through you. You had pushed along a piece to me. I wonder if you could tell everybody about this effort. I'm chuckling because it's both funny, but it's really clever and smart and maybe effective.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing. Like, when we talk about these coalitions, it has to be this major group effort. We've got to come at it, with everything. And so, we have to have, sort of straightforward, grazing animals as we used to, old school, and then incredible technology. So Bill Gates has, he's funding this group. They're out of Australia. They're called Rumen 8, and the 8 is the numeral 8. And they're making this seaweed-based cattle feed that lowers the methane burps. Everyone thinks it's cow farts, but it's actually their burps that are the really, the amount of methane that they're putting into the atmosphere is crazy. They're about to start taxing them, and cows in New Zealand, farmers are going to have to pay a tax on every burp one of their cows makes, because I mean, in New Zealand, they are contributing half the greenhouse gases there. And so this feed that Bill Gates has put $12 million into, and also Jeff Bezos is involved, is okay, like we're going to have cattle. We're not going, but let's have cattle that aren't doing, as much damage. So one thing is, give them this, seaweed-based food. I hope they like it. I mean, seaweed is just, one of the things in it. But we need these kind of breakthroughs. The tax in New Zealand, what will happen there is if you tax burps, farmers will, have to have less cattle. And of course, they don't like that idea. But if the seaweed works, well, then they can start feeding, their cows this seaweed-based cattle feed. And less burps, less taxes.
Yes, I see. That's the ultimate incentive for them to perhaps get with the program. I love that, Kim. I love that Belinda goes, I hope they like it. Like the farmers and anybody eating meat gives a damn whether the cattle like the actual feed that they're being given. But they have to eat it in order to,
This research on the seaweed was going on with the Scripps Institute in San Diego, but also they're working with Strauss Dairy Farm here in Sonoma County, Marin County, on our coast here, and they're testing it out. And yes, the cows are eating it. It makes a huge difference in their amount of methane that they release from their burps, because I didn't know this, but burps are apparently, they burp more than they toot. So burps are the bigger problem.
Yes,
it's making a big difference. Yeah.
And Karen Cooper says,
it will reduce the methane that they're emitting by 90%. I mean,
wow.
That's huge. That's huge. So,
the cattle do like the seaweed, says Karen Cooper. It's a relatively small component of the feed. A California farmer started using it quite a while ago.
Yeah,
that's kind of what you were saying, Kim, too.
Right.
That's Strauss. Yeah. Okay, that's it. Wow.
Yeah, so I think all this stuff is really great, because when you look at the methane that is going into the atmosphere, the biggest livestock agricultural nations in the world. I mean, if you put the top 15 together, their emissions are bigger than, Russia, Canada, Australia, because of the animals. Yes, and the burps, Kim, there. Yeah, the burps. Not the other end, front end.
Not the other end, yeah.
People.
But now the problem is, okay, we're going to have to harvest seaweed. How do we get it? Or do we grow it like in certain parts of the ocean? And so now there's companies being formed that are setting up areas where they can grow the seaweed to harvest specifically for food for the cattle. So it's kind of a whole new industry being created.
Yeah, and the thing is, they want us to eat more seaweed. I mean, seaweed is, and then it's another thing. It's a crop as opposed to an animal. It sequesters, CO2 every time it's, you're growing a new crop. So I think, it is going to be this collaborative, incredible kind of patchwork of solutions that all come together. And hopefully, as soon as possible. And we'll be on a better footing, and we're really heading towards that. I'm always bleating on about the renewable energy and all these things, but all this stuff is moving in the right direction. So we just have to, I tweeted a thing the other day, because we get so much misinformation still from the dinosaurs, and the dinosaurs I'm referring to are the fossil fuel industry, corporate leaders who keep on telling us that, we can only survive if we use fossil fuels. The media picks it up, our politicians parrot it, and it's just not true. And we need to really get away from that narrative. And and that's going to have to be my final note. I've got to bounce. I love you guys. I've got to go.
All right. Thank you, Belinda Weymouth. She's here on Thursdays at the Planet Stupid. Belinda, everybody. Thank you, Belinda Weymouth. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Bye. My pleasure.
Bye.
There's a remote island off the coast. There's a remote island off the coast of England where seaweed is the only thing that the sheep can eat. They hardly produce less methane. Yes, from a YouTube user. I wonder if that's your Christian name, YouTube user. Was that your given name, your birth name? Albert, sting me, and let's do something.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I only have a few minutes before the great Nikki Maduro show begins. So I will tell you that I've got a couple of pretty big stories I want to share with you from right here in California.
We also have a couple shout outs, so let's save some.
And I've got a couple shout outs. Let's do it. I love it.
Let's do it.
I saw Andreas give with a contribution, and I didn't see Daryl Leffler, $4.99. Big shout out. Thank you, Daryl Leffler.
Big shout out.
Daryl Leffler with the musical notes makes me think maybe some either musician or music appreciator. Don't know. But thank you, Daryl. And thank you for supporting the show. Very grateful.
Yeah.
Wes Derry, regular viewer, listener, best wishes for everyone having illness in their families. Wes, thank you for the $10. Thank you for the support.
Thank you
and
so much.
A lot of people are dealing with what I'm dealing with older people in the family or even younger people. I mean, illness doesn't really have an age-specific kind of thing associated with it. Thank you, Wes. Nancy Benoit, $20. Here's to beers from Mark, Kim, Albert, and Tony for Beer Week. It is Beer Week in the Bay Area. Sorry that I can only afford happy hour beer prices.
Oh, Nancy. That's just nice that you contribute.
Oh my God, that's a way generous contribution. Thank you for the $20. Thank you. We give you the Chappelle. Thank you. Right on, Nancy. Thank you so much. Sharon Kidd, prayers for your family. Mark, thank you for continuing on with the show. Hugs to Kim. $49.99. Wow.
Thank you.
Sharon from Willits, California.
Thank you so much. Right? I've got Thank you so much, Sharon. I have a big story from Willits for you tomorrow. I mean, it's a big story from Willits, and that's all I'm going to say. It will lead the show tomorrow, Sharon, and that will be for you and all our friends in Willits. Joe Fong, 1999.
Big shout out.
What up? Big shout out, Joe. Thank you, Joe Fong.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Joe. Thank you, everyone who has stepped up and made contributions. Among them, Andreas.
Big shout
out. Yeah, what can you say? Big shout out to Andreas. Hope your dad pulls through like my parents. Yeah, Andreas with his 94-year-old mother. Such good outcome. I'm hoping for a similar outcome for my dad. Thank you, Andreas.
Thank you. Thank you.
And Andreas, very generous today. $20 for your dad.
So much.
Really that's the add to the other $20. That's $40, and that really helps. And then an extra $20. I'm no math expert, but that's $60.
We got to send him a hat or something.
Wait a minute. And another 20? Andreas. And another 20, Albert? Is this correct?
Those are all correct, and those are in the correct order. Thank you so much, Andreas.
Yeah.
Andreas, truly, from my heart, thank you. You're a big part of our show. You're a big part of supporting the show, and I really appreciate it. Every day. Thank you. Joe Box for Kim TARP funds.
What?
Did you get him back? That's $10. Thank you, Joe Box. Did you get Joe Box the
we have
the
had
banner?
Joe Box and I have had an ongoing saga
Oh
with
my
the tarp.
God.
I took it to the UPS store and we kind of like the holidays happened, so we didn't deal with it. Then took it to the UPS store to mail it to Joe Box, and the next day I opened the door as I'm going to get my kids to pick them up to get them from school. There's the tarp back on my porch.
My bad. I'm sorry.
Take it back to the UPS store, send it to Joe Box again. And this time it says it's delivered, but it's not on my porch. Where is it? Well, it's back in Brentwood, California, back at, in the Southern California area where it originated. So then apparently, I don't know if it's back on its way to New York, to Joe Box or what. If it gets there, it'll be a miracle. We'll see.
So Joe Box lives in New York, is what you're telling me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Joe.
And I wanted to apologize to the Asian community, the Asian American community.
So for those who are just joining, I'll just tell you in 10 seconds or less, we used to have a banner that hung behind me. We all autographed it. We auctioned it off, and Joe Box was the winner. We had to get it to him, and that's what this whole saga is about.
Yeah.
Joe, I hope you get it. But it's nice that you and Kim have an ongoing back and forth. At minimum, you have that.
I get the funniest emails from him about the tarp saga, too. It's great.
Yeah. Harry Magden, $20 a teddy bear for your dad. Thank you, Harry. My dad
nice.
is.
Thank you so
much. My dad needs all
much.
your thoughts, so I appreciate that very, very much. Seemed a little stronger yesterday, which is nice. Shout out to the 207. Come
Big
on,
shout
207. Agent Kitty Feets, $4.99 with that shout out. Love it. Thank you for all the ways you support this show. Subscribing, a thumbs up, hit that bell for notifications, and we'll always let you know when we drop new videos. Increasingly, as the year goes on, there will be other videos in addition to the live show. So by hitting notification, you'll know about that. Thanks to our sponsor, Steve Moskowitz. We love him. 888 Tax Deal. Pick up the phone and call him with whatever issue you may have. And Nikki Maduro Show follows us. Not even Jerry Garcia's cannabis brand can make it in California. Yep. San Francisco's failure to respond to drug crisis. Pope likes the middle finger.
What?
Disturbing history of Groundhog Day. Oh. Plus, Rescue Dog with SFSPCA. I love that Nikki does that segment.
This is so fun. Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah. So Nikki's show is called The Nikki Maduro Show, and it's over on the Nikki Maduro Show channel. Thank you all for being with us. Click that like button. Smash it like a boss. Oh, my God. Give me that thumbs up. Helps us in the algorithms of YouTube. We have such a great show tomorrow. Michael Shore and Jim Avila join us with a drill down on the week in politics. Yeah, terrific. I don't know if you saw what Lauren Boebert has pulled, and Marjorie Taylor Greene is out of her mind. We'll have that audio for you, and we'll comment on it tomorrow. Michael Snyder joins us, and we'll have a preview of a preview with Michael Snyder. We'll follow up on the Titanic comments and the story that Kim had today. I have a follow-up for you, and we'll get into that tomorrow as well. And of course, Friday is Florida. Friday, fabulous Florida tomorrow. Albert, thanks for the hustle today. You too, Kim.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Yes, on Groundhog Day, if you see your shadow, Stephen, it'll be 6 weeks more of winter. Until tomorrow, bye-bye.